Well, if that is the case, the big focus on Friday, of course, the National Assembly. It holds its first sitting. Still big questions around the situation in the provinces. Coalition agreements are needed in some provinces as well. In KwaZulu-Natal, if you look at the numbers, MK has 37 seats, the EFF has 2. EFF has said it will work with MK. That takes them to 39. The IFP has 15 seats, the ANC has 14, the DA has 11. That means, on the one side, MK and the EFF together have 39 seats. On the other, the IFP, the ANC and the DA together have 40 seats. The National Freedom Party has 1 seat, which could now hold the balance of power. Ziyanda Ngobo, there's someone who spends a life looking at balances of power. She's our senior political correspondent. Ziyanda, good afternoon to you, and thanks for your time. All right, so it seems, either way, hard to govern in KwaZulu-Natal without MK because they got 45% of the vote. Unless the ANC and the IFP and the DA work together, and presumably that would be because of a national coalition agreement, not just something in KZN.
That's right, Stephen, but this actually goes to the heart of what is currently bedeviling some parties right now, to say a national coalition, yes, might be great for parliament and at a national level, but there are several dynamics that each party has to consider. They're still assessing their various electoral outcomes in KwaZulu-Natal. The IFP didn't grow as much as it would have wanted to. Is it because the IFP, some IFP supporters voted for the MK party because of this loose agreement between the DA and the IFP, because the DA is perceived to be a white party? What are the dynamics that they have to look at? Internal party dynamics, that's the first thing. The second thing is the 2026 local government elections, which are around the corner, and whatever is decided at national, you know, there's an argument that it should not be prescriptive for what happens in provinces, especially in KwaZulu-Natal. You outlined the numbers. So if, for instance, you know, the IFP chooses not to work with the DA and the ANC, I mean, then, you know, the MK party and the IFP could run KwaZulu-Natal with an outright majority. At some stage, we were talking about the NFP being a kingmaker, but it seems now, when you look at the IFP, the discussion is changing. Why? Because of what I mentioned about the perception of the DA, and also the IFP is going to its own, you know, elective conference later on this year. And what happens in KwaZulu-Natal, since it's always been the IFP's stronghold, could have an impact on the overall growth of the party, especially now that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi is late. So there are a lot of factors that need to be considered, and I think the example of coalition governments in Ekurhuleni and Johannesburg tell us that a prescriptive approach from national cascading down to provinces and at a local level, it might not necessarily be the best option because of different dynamics.
Could it also be that the IFP just becomes divided? The province in KwaZulu-Natal wants to work with MK. The national leadership may want a cabinet position, who knows? And so what you actually have is different ambitions, different interests, and the party itself, the centre of the party, comes under a lot of strain.
In fact, it seems as though, like I was saying, that this is exactly what's happening in the IFP. There's a lot of discussion around, well, okay, if you join this government of national unity that the ANC's proposed, maybe keep Mkhuleko Hlengwa as scope chair, maybe Velenkosini Hlabisa gets another position. What happens to the core base of the party? Because it seems that on the ground, there is a lot of resistance towards working with the ANC in the province. And if we're now talking about the will of the people and the interest or the public interest and what the voters tried to communicate in the last poll, the last vote, then that might just be something that the party has to consider. And then you have a split within the organization. And so perhaps as a last resort, as some are saying, could be, let's just get the election of the president done and have sort of loose agreements and then maybe finalize them after the sitting on Friday. But that's also a very precarious position to be in, especially in a province like KwaZulu-Natal, where literally whoever runs the province, it will be by a difference of 1 vote.
Very quickly, if you can, the situation in Gauteng is slightly easier, but in a way it looks like the ANC has to really decide. The EFF and the ANC plus 1 small party gets them over the line, or the ANC and the DA.
ANC and the DA, they would have 50 votes hands down. And again, the same predicament the IFP is facing is the same one that the ANC is facing. The optics of working with the Democratic Alliance and policies. You know, there's been a lot of analysis of where people sit in terms of the political spectrum, center-right, center-left, etc. And then if you look at the dynamic of the EFF and MK, they could also run with the ANC. Then enters that conversation about the market. So, I mean, I think when you look at Gauteng, it's a bit more stable. But again, with the talks now having not yet been concluded at national level, i.e. this ANC, IFP, DA conversation that has been touted, there's a lot that's unclear. And the provincial legislatures, most of them across the country, are sitting on Friday at 10 o'clock as well.
Zandile Ngcobo, thank you very much indeed. A lot to watch over the next couple of days.